lunch is BenjaminHunnicutt. He's a historian, a PhD. I'm very interested in this topic. I do remember when there was all this talk about working shorter hours so that we could expand the work base. And somehow we've lost that. It's like everybody's working more hours and not really have done much to expand the work, the base of work. So he's going to talk with us about exactly at the end of shorter hours. I like this language, the rise of the world of total work, the unique modern glorification of work as a crypto religion, resulting in the trivialization of leisure. And very interesting, leisure had been the objective for so many years. So really that was like the ultimate goal that we had for so many years. So I really look forward to hearing this topic, which I've not heard from this perspective. Thank you.
I'm going to need some help. I can't, the screen is not working. I ought to get back to one PowerPoint, so to the work, to the desktop.
I particularly enjoyed, did I do something? Mr. Coleridge's reminding us that history is a powerful way of showing that those things that we think have been around forever and are not capable of being changed are in fact some of the things that are the newest historical products. Go back a few years, it were never thus. It was not always thus. I started at the University of North Carolina, full of the Holy Spirit, raised a Southern Baptist household, thinking that I was going to be a preacher, taking courses in biblical history, Greek. I did well. I took straight A's in Greek. My great accomplishment. I remember walking into one of my Bible classes, Bible history, reading some of the higher critics from Germany in the 19th century, and having lectures about the history of the Bible, how it was a product of history, not the inerrant Word of God, that it changed over time. I remember specifically a lecture in which we were talking about the Septuagint version of the Bible, the translation from Hebrew into Greek, and how a lot of things were missed in that translation. One of the things is God's name. In Hebrew, God's name is a tetragram of 4 letters. In Hebrew, there's no vowels. But we don't know how to pronounce God's name in Hebrew. God's name was not pronounced for years and years, centuries, millennia. So you only have that tetragram. And when the Jew would come around and read the Bible, she would put in a word, the Lord, Adonai, or whatever, to stand for that holy name that couldn't be said. In the translation, what are you going to do? We don't know what vowels to put in. So an enterprising monk took the Greek word, Adonai, which means Lord, and substituted the vowels into the Hebrew tetragram and came up with Jehovah. We got God's name wrong. That shook me to my core. In every word of God, we've got God's name. I realized then the power of history. I think my faith is stronger having been challenged this way. But I still saw there the challenge of history, the use of history to take those things that we think are solid and shaped the very color. Corporations work. My life's work has been to do a history of work, showing that what we think about work, how we understand work, is brand new, less than 100 years old. I do this by writing histories of work hours, how work hours have changed through time, and expectations about work, how people thought about work, what they look forward to in terms of their work life. And in that way, show the relativity, that work was not everless. Work, as we believe, what we believe in as work, as a life-centering experience that will be with us forever. More or less full-time jobs is new, is brand new. So you go back less than 50 years, and you see something almost unrecognizable. When I teach my students in my classes at the university, they're shocked to see this other view, this alternate view that was with us not long ago. I'm doing this. This is a graph of working hours from 1820 to 1930. This is the basis of my scholarship. Can you see it okay? Gradually getting shorter
Can we
and shorter.
dim the light?
If we go back just a bit
Okay.
before the Industrial Revolution, how long did people work? How long do hunters and gatherers work?
3 hours a day?
What?
3 hours a day?
3 or less. Through the Middle Ages, 156 holidays were celebrated in the Catholic Church. Not that everyone took those holidays, but work was not that central. I grew up on a farm. We worked like hell. And some months my grandpa would have to try to find things for us to do, create work. He was more of a modern guy. But there were these periods of feast and famine in terms of work. So, the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, working hours get shorter and shorter. By the turn of the 20th century and into that work in the 21st, 20th century, predictions were being made. Work cut nearly in half over what I call the century of short hours. 1920, people writing about this process projected this sort of trend and predicted a variety of things. Here's some examples. No one predicted, I've been at this 40 years, over 40 years, and I've yet to find anyone who predicted this process would stop. If you, I tell my students, if you find somebody that predicted this process would stop, I give you extra credit, I give you an A in my class. You see a whole lot of people. John Maynard Keynes, probably among them, predicts 2.5 hours a day of the 1980s. No one, again, predicted this to end, but yeah, here we go. This is a quote from Keynes. I don't have time really to read all of these quotes, but he's talking about this age of leisure will come. Inevitable. It's part of the industrial process. My life-changing experience, I doubt a lot of people have had their lives changed. An article published in the Monthly Labor Review, but I did. An article by John Owens, who said, who pointed out that working hours ceased to get shorter. The work week stabilized after the Great Depression. There was this period of time here is really important for me, from 1920 to 1940, a pivotal 2 decades. But as you see, working hours stabilized. John Owens said in that article, he's an economist at Wayne State. And since 1976, or mid-70s, Juliet Shore, the overworked American, says, I agree with her that working hours have gotten longer. Not only has the process stopped, that so many people thought inevitable, but has turned around and gone the other way. my question is, what the hell happened? There's a summary. I tell my class at this point, if you can tell me an answer, give me an answer that I have not published, I'll give you an A+ in my class, no more classes, no more exams for you, you can write me a paper. But that challenged you, what the hell happened? Here are a list of things that I don't have time to go through in any detail at all. Also vision, consumerism, surely. But what I want to do here is to contrast, again, there's a blatant commercial for my book, go buy it. It's a catalog, it tells a story that I've just told. Okay? It tells a story, and I add so many characters, people who are talking about this sort of thing, what I call the original American dream, the first dream of progress. What does progress mean in this country? I think we all would hope that we would get better. What does it mean from the beginning of the founding of this nation? The progress as the advance of liberty. What does that mean? Several things. 3 at least. The Declaration of Independence, as you see, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That I think first identifies the three parts of this idea of progress. You probably know this, the quote from John Adams, his wife studied politics and war. You see it there. 3 parts of the advance of liberty. Political, get our house in order, extend political constitutional democracy and its rights to all the people, instead of corporations. Sons, I don't see corporations up there in place. Then economic freedom, the free market, if it works properly, it gives us the possibility of making a living, of getting enough. An idea very pregnant during 100 years of this country's history, that we will soon, that reasonable people getting more and more stuff will soon, eventually, get enough. The last painting poetry identifies the higher progress that so many people write about. Even Benjamin Franklin writes about this. As you see, I'll let you read that if you will, how progress in this higher form, in our humanity, not just progress materially, not just progress politically, but progress in our humanity. It's possible. We can devote our energies, our enthusiasms to making our lives better, producing better families. Machines, okay, right, good housing, right, all that's fine. But here is the final culmination of this dream of progress that I think is central to the story of this country. The original American dream, I said this, to realize our full humanity in the free associations of community, mind, and spirit. I say this again and again, not just pie in the sky, utopian speculation, but a reasonable possibility. Technology will produce machines that will allow us to do more with less. We live in Iowa now, so that we don't need thousands of people in the fields. One person in a combine can do the work of literally hunting, this. So sooner or later, we will be able to turn our attention to higher wages and shorter hours. This goes back, this dream goes back to the colonial period. It surprised the hell out of me when I'm writing about this. I keep pushing back. I start in the 1920s and 30s, and I found this dialogue going on. This expectation of higher progress. And I keep pushing back through my career. And I get back to the colonial period, which really does surprise me. Jonathan Edwards, the old Puritan, he writes about it. There it is. His follower Samuel Hopkins is about more or less the same sorts of things. My focus of Free Time, The Forgotten American Dream is the American labor movement. I see this as the core narrative of the book. The American labor movement uses this issue of short hours as fundamental. It's the beginning of the American labor movement, and it continues to be vital to the American labor movement until the 1950s. All of these other folks, these bourgeois folks like Walt Whitman, who talk about this vision of higher progress, actually are keying on what labor is doing. Labor is making something very real, demanding, and there's the vision. The vision of higher progress. That's the first document of American labor history. There it is. There's the vision. 10, 12 to 10 to 8 to 6, and so on. And so on. 6 hours, and then progressive shortening of the hours of labor was at the heart of the American labor movement. AFL 1926, the progressive shortening. They were fighting here for the 40-hour week, and it's not, the 40-hour week is just part of a larger goal. My book is a catalog of those people who write about the dream, who have a variety of different types of expectations, hopes for what this new freedom will mean. As you see here, a list of those people. Frank Lloyd Wright is one of my favorite. Robert Hutchins of Chicago, Fanny Cohen. Higher progress. Here's my sort of summary of higher progress. And I'm facing a deadline here. I'll read this because it is, I tend to write a lot better than I speak. And so this is my take. As we begin to solve what John Maynard Keynes called the economic problem, our time would become more valuable to us than new goods and services we had never needed or even seen. The free market. We'll make choices. When will we get enough? I don't need to decide that. All of us have this individual choice to make. More stuff or more time. I saw this at Kellogg when I did a book on Kellogg's 6-hour day. It's a fundamental choice that we make in the marketplace, how much time we offer. So I know there are a lot of problems with it, but then we would welcome the opportunity to live more of our lives outside the marketplace. No longer preoccupied with economic concerns, we could begin to develop our potential to live together peacefully and agreeably, spending more of our time and energy forming healthy families, neighborhoods, and cities, increasing our knowledge and appreciation of nature, history, and other people, freely investigating and delighting in the mysteries of the human spirit, exploring our beliefs and values together, finding common ground for agreement and conviviality, living virtuous lives, practicing our faith together, expanding our awareness of God, wondering in creation. A more complete catalog of the free activities and vision over the course of our nation's history is one of the burdens of my book. There it is, as succinct as I can make it. Walt Whitman is a star of my book, I think, if anyone he is referred to again and again as representing a visionary, representing this higher progress, anticipating the coming of this freedom, and talking about what would be possible, and his ideas about what would be possible in that new era. Sages, again, he has the same flourishes into the 20th century, as you see, as late as a live memory. Some of us actually remember Eric Severide, I do, on television in the 1970s, saying the great problem facing us is going to be expanding leisure and what to do with it. So that expectation of increasing free time was around us for a long time. Into the 20s reaches its high point, ironically during the Great Depression. Short hours becomes a political issue. My first book, Work Without End, is a detailed history of the politics of work sharing that occurred during the Great Depression, when laws were proposed, the Black Commerce Bill, limiting working hours to 30 hours a week. Almost passed, I think it's the defining piece of legislation in Roosevelt's administration. That's my argument. That I think the New Deal, all of its components are shaped by that in response to the Black Connor Bill. Roosevelt plots his course by sailing in the opposite direction of this Black Connor Bill. And this new idea emerges with Roosevelt's administration, full-time, full employment. The stabilization of working hours. Full-time, full employment. Full employment has always been part of labor's cost, but not full-time. Roosevelt pays it, and his administration 40 hours. Since then, 40 hours have become somehow sacrosanct. And we can't imagine any other possibility. Here, during this period of time, is when that it becomes solid, something that becomes a cultural icon, and something that we have a hard time thinking of anything except full-time, full employment. Again, I don't have 5 minutes to go through Roosevelt's administration. Suffice it to say, government takes its responsibility to create new work by whatever means to replace that taken by technology and the machine. That's a fundamental watershed, I think, of American history. It joins with corporations. Corporations are fighting this. They see the possibility of work, of gradual erosion of work as the bleeding out of their life, of the lifeblood of the economy. If people leave, I'm old enough to remember the Vietnam War. What if they get into a war and nobody came? This is an exit. This to me, and I don't have that time, becomes radical, just for that reason. It's not, I think Roosevelt, in this regard, is one of the most conservative of presidents because he allies government with the creating new work to keep the economy expanding enough to support a new work forever. It becomes an eternal quest to create enough work for everyone who wants a job to have 40 hours a day. That's new. I think it defines political discourse. You listen to any politician for 5 minutes and they will always return to the mantra of jobs, jobs, jobs. That's new. That's a new idea. The alternative is work sharing. Draw down the amount of work. Instead of work sharing. Instead of all of us working 40 hours, just almost all of us working 30 hours, the unemployment would be drawn down. It works. It worked in France. 1996, the French were 35 hours. And it makes a dent in unemployment. So the work sharing solution is still around as an alternative to the eternal growth of the economy sufficient to create full-time jobs. This is the alternative. Work sharing, shorter hours is the alternative, which we have, the politics of which occurs again occasionally after this period of time that it's just about.
Is that what they're doing in Germany now?
I'm sorry?
Do they do that in Germany now?
I'm hard of hearing, so
Do they do work sharing in Germany now?
Volkswagen, the Beamers are doing, but it's voluntary. This is conservative. Companies like Kellogg's, without any government intervention, go 30 hours. Employees love it. It creates employment opportunities in Battle Creek. Paul Litchfield in Goodyear Tire where in Ohio? Akron, of course. All of those folks were working before, offered the 30-hour possibility. So there were powerful business spokespersons. Walter Gifford, AT&T, sees the vision. He's a proponent of work, drawing down work. He sees short hours as the cream of the crop, as the final best product of capitalism. So it's not just you know, a bunch of liberal folks who say this, but for some very conservative business people, legal firms, England also. What's happened since then, the eclipse of the ideology of work, a new belief system, what we think of as work is a place to realize our full humanity. Work is for more work. Wealth is for more work. Wealth is for more wealth. Why? Because it creates jobs. It is one of the great excuses of corporate world today is that we are creating work. If we don't need their jobs, that weakens them out, I think, significantly. Modern glorification of work, work becomes an end in itself, which is an extraordinary level. Before the 20th century, before now, work was contextualized. It had a larger purpose. It was subordinate to other, better things. We work to live, don't live to work, sort of embodies that. You've heard that, I think, earlier on. Work to live, don't live to work. Work was contextualized. I'm working as part of God's plan. I'm working in a rational order, which was granted. I'm working to meet my rational needs so that I'm able to move beyond my rational needs and present of feeding and clothing my family to spending more time with them, to having the opportunity of visiting my grandchildren and great-grandchildren and spending a week with them, by God. That is the great flower. What's replaced it, I think, the ideology of work, what I call a new religion, a new faith, work for work's sake. Paul Tillich argues, the great 20th century theologian, a lot of us claim not to have a religion, but you ask them sort of questions, you can quickly identify their ultimate concerns, which traditionally, the traditional religions answered, who are you? Where are you going? How do you make sense out of your mortality in your life? I'm going to die, for Christ's sake. How am I going to make sense of those ultimate questions for which there are no scientific answers? Ask, who are you? My job. What do I owe the people around me? I work. All of those answers are new. And all of those are particular, unique to this new faith system based in our jobs more and more. I think it's a failing faith. It's the title of the book that I'm working on now, Saving Work, a Failing Faith, because work simply does not answer our ultimate concerns, as do the traditional religions. They fail miserably. It fails miserably. Modern glorification of labor, if you want a more secular discussion of the rise of work as a unique new belief system, that what follows along with this is the degradation of leisure. For 100 years, leisure was seen to be something really great, something to be really desired. Walt Whitman, it's a time that we'll talk to each other. Now, I'm a professor of leisure studies. I tell people regularly on the airplane, I'm a janitor. I do. Because if I told them I'm a professor of leisure studies, I would have to explain myself for the rest of the flight. Recently, I wrote a thing for Politico, quite a Republican voice to work on, in which I talked about, I'm not going to have time to do, I'll just do this and quit, in which I talked about Obamacare, and that it allows people who aren't full-time, and it would get health insurance. And I argued in this, more or less, I told a story of what I just told you, that there is this long tradition of work reduction that was at the heart of our common story in American history. And that some of the more conservative people, like Walter Gifford, business folks, were advocates of this stream of liberation. I call these folks liberation capitalists. So I write this. The response was breathtaking. Sean Hannity, O'Reilly, I can't think without an impression.
Herman Cain, you said?
Yeah.
Herman Cain?
Yeah, Herman Cain. Vitriolic. It was just, and why not, they didn't read the article. The only thing they read was up Professor Richard said, that's all. And then they you know, attacked me for that in some really egregious way. For no other reason, the trivial, I think that trivializing leisure, anybody that speaks for leisure must be insane. Completely forgot. Well, in terms of the only thing that's real is working war. I'm tempted, and I'm going to stop now because I'm 5 minutes over. I'm tempted by Karl Marx's Das Kapital, in which he talks about the length of working day. Do you remember that at all? I'm not a Marxist.
Okay, you just passed by, I saw. Yeah, you just.
Yeah, surplus value. The length of the working day, Marx argues surplus value. A worker comes to work and after a period of time will have paid for his or her salary. After that is profit. Okay, and so there is a built-in tendency to lengthen the working hours until workers begin to drop. Looking at the graph that I showed you before, we're working longer, about 5 weeks longer now than the mid-1970s. We are working longer. Retirement trends are going the opposite way they went before the 1990s. We're getting older and older as we retire. Work is getting to surplus value. The necessity to convert lives into profits. Okay, I'll stop. Marcuse as well, Marcuse, one of my favorites, bases much of his radicalism not on a change of government, but on short. I think short hours is a radical issue, not the change in government, but the radicalization that I will embrace is not a change in government forms, but the shorter working hours here. Marcuse describes that threat, and traditional advanced industrial society, the permanent mobilization. As you see, I think it is a way, short hours, a way of refocusing progress from ruinous, unsustainable types of growth into a type of growth that generates short hours and does not impact the environment. It's also a way, shorter working hours is a way of dealing with the maldistribution of wealth and the maldistribution of power. If
So,
we begin to
Professor
work,
Hunnicutt,
pardon?
in the interest of some leisure for a while,